Hello, good afternoon. My name is Alexa Gorola Martinez, and today I will be presenting Mr. Car Wash Alicia's experience. This is the experience of one of my coworkers named Alicia, who works at Mr. Car Wash, and her challenges working at this position. So, on April 16th, around 10 days ago, around the making of this video, I met with Alicia Castilla, who is a guest service specialist working at Mr. Car Wash in Kennewick, Washington, which is a car wash chain. So she agreed to record part of her experience working for the company. These transcripts were then imported into part of the presentation that I'll be showing to you shortly. She also answered her questions to the best of her ability and experience. And she also gave permission and agreed to share her name and position to the company for this project. And she did not allow to present her face. Big disclaimer, although me and Alicia are coworkers, we work in the same company, and I'm also a GSS. We have completely different schedules. No input of mine was made into this project. This is completely Alicia's experience working at Mister. To the best of her ability, no bias was created in making this project. This is completely her experience, her challenges, and her time working at Mister since early 2025. So the purpose of this project is to inform others about the typical day working at Mister, the tasks associated, and sometimes the challenges working there in general. And we're also going to be covering major topics such as organizational politics, my apologies, supporting employees through management, possible opportunities for further employee improvement, motivation, and work performance during her employment. So, giving a quick background as to what Mr. Car Wash is, like I mentioned earlier, we wash vehicles. So, Mister is a big chain of car washes around the United States, including the state where I am in Washington. And we work in the automotive industry with we working on, like I mentioned, cleaning vehicles. So, like I mentioned earlier, Alicia is a guest service specialist, which are the employees that are at the forefront of the company. The GSS, or guest service specialists, are the ones that speak to customers directly foremost, and they maintain the three main rotations in the worksite: greet, also known as greeting, guide on, and quality inspection. So this is a relative picture of one of the sites at Mister based on a Google satellite. So there are three different areas. Right down here is greeting. This is basically the two lanes where the cars enter, and that's where the employee will greet the person. And then once they go through, then they go a little bit through the lane and they go to the guide on, which is the entrance of the tunnel, and then the parking lot is considered the quality inspection area. So, giving more details about greeting, this is where the employee will welcome customers into the site. They will signal customers to enter the lanes. So there's two different types of customers. There are retail customers and members. So retail customers are essentially people that purchase one wash and just come in and get a single wash. While people who are members purchase a pass, which allows them to come in as many times as they like. And there's two different lanes designated for that. And they also make sure customers are being cared for, such as purchasing a wash, maintaining member accounts, such as billing, cancellation, any other problems. And if customers have any questions about their quality of wash, they go to the GSS that is in that station. Next is Guide On. So this is directly inside the tunnel where the GSS will guide in vehicles personally into the tunnel and making sure the tires are into the track. They will give signals and instructions for the cars to go in neutral. And after that, they'll be rolled into the tunnel where they will be cleaned. If per necessary, they will be sprayed down with any bug spray or any preparation in case they need extra preparation, if making sure that the tunnel might not get a lot of spots covered through. Then that's what the GSS is for, to make sure that the cars are being prepped correctly into entering. And then the last section is quality inspection. There are two different types of quality inspection in a different type of site that Mr. Car Wash owns, such as an interior site that is basically cleaning the vehicle itself. However, Alicia works at a exterior site, which means that they don't do interior cleaning. So this is basically maintaining the site, keeping it clean, maintaining the vacuums, declogging them, collecting trash, maintaining equipment, and helping customers with any other needs. Especially, this will give more detail compared to people at Greet, since they are in a time crunch. Being in quality inspection allows for the GSS and customers to be one-on-one for more time. Company structure goes in 4 different forms. Alicia is a GSS. The majority of the company are basically the base level employees. The majority of the company are GSSs. Upon hiring, people hire as a GSS, and you build up from there. Next are assistant managers, which maintain the state of the site. And they're kind of grouped in a similar category, the second category, with assistant managers, site managers, and general managers. They work very similarly. They maintain the site overall, but the site manager has a little bit more of a role taking care of more maintenance things and the business parts of the store, while the GM is the final say. They are the boss of the site. And they work very close together with the AM and the SM. Next are regional managers, which manage a region of sites. And with that is a director of operations, director of maintenance, etc., that maintain different sites. And then at the top is the CEO, HR executives, and investors in Mr. Car Wash. That is the triangle for Mr. Car Wash in the employee sense. When someone is entering the company, they enter as a GSS, and people keep climbing up from there. So these are the organizational practices according to Alicia's experience. So overall, managers are responsible. They are the ones that make sure that the employees are doing well, the GSS, and they monitor their work performance, maintaining good work morale, and making sure that the tasks are being completed within an appropriate amount of time. When I say tasks, I mean such as greeting, guide on, and QI, quality inspection. So I asked her, how would she describe work attitudes? And for the most part, she says that they're positive. Most of the time that she's working there, she feels content. She feels satisfied with the people and the tasks being done. She did note that it wasn't too difficult of such of a hard task to do. And most of the time, she is happy to go in, complete her work, and, work there. However, she did mention, though, that at the times that are extremely busy, it can become a little bit negative due to the pressure from everybody to keep it going, such as like more vehicles wanting to enter the tunnel, more people, customers coming in, and it kind of, the more vehicles wanting to wash, it affects how people are working there, and it kind of gives a little bit of a stress. And what affects it, I asked her, she said that it's customer volume and sometimes it's weather. When it is extremely hot or extremely nice weather, that's when more people come in. When it's hotter, that's when there's more danger of like heat exhaustion or heat illness. And based on her own perspective of the overall team, how do they feel based on her look? She said that it's overall pretty high, the job satisfaction for the team. So for motivation, I asked her what motivates her to be at Mr. based on experience. She explained that this has been her second job. Previously, she worked at a different chain, and she feels that she learns about work experience, meeting, learning about different people, such as her coworkers and her customers, and the demand, like I mentioned earlier, of tasks being done on a regular day. There's 3 rotations, which allows for a lot of flexibility, and it's something that can be managed in a regular day. So asking her that too, what is management's role in order to enhance that motivation? So she explained that there are site competitions, which basically People who gain the most amount of signups, which basically is signing up members, they get prizes in turns. So there's site competitions for each different site, different stores, and there's team competitions, which is a GSS and a manager who compete other groups in the site to win prizes. And it could be such as like lunch on the management team. It could be a little bit break. It can also be a pass to leave early or clock in a little bit late. And with that, with good constant performance, good performance allows for people to have the opportunity to have a raise. So going into that performance, I asked her, how does Mr. Carwash evaluate employee performance? And there's three different ways that performance is evaluated. So she claims that one of them is the feedback and growth plan. This is done within 30 days, 90 days within hire, and once a year on person's anniversary. And they check for different categories like sense of urgency, team player, signups, for example, how many members you sign up, physical look, for example, your appearance, flexibility on feedback, able to communicate with different members. And based on how good the score is, you are able to get a raise out of that. So it is a financial reward for doing well in the FGP. For negative things, there is something called a coaching, and this is basically when an employee makes a mistake or there's something that has to be addressed. They get a coaching. And in order for the employee to understand Mr. policies and how to perform better, now knowing what mistake they have done and how to better with that, evaluating small moments of performance. And then on more of a serious note, there is something called a performance plan. These are more serious reports for employees who need serious things to work on. So, according to her, she has seen multiple employees have done performance plans. She did report that one employee had it for poor attendance, for missing and calling out on a lot of her shifts. One employee that she knew was switched to another site also had unacceptable verbal remarks and was on a performance plan. And another employee had poor satisfactory performance with communicating with employees based on her own experience, and they were on performance plan. And they will meet frequently in order to check progress. And if that person does not meet the improvement or the company doesn't see improvement, then that is official termination for that employee. And then I asked her, how does your performance evaluations affect you? She said for the most part, they have been positive. Some of them have led to like a raise in her wage, and she's done pretty good in her performance in her feedback and growth plan. However, sometimes she does say when she does get a coaching, it kind of causes stress to her because she feels that she is in a state and she has a pressure to be better, so she doesn't do disciplinary action. But for the most part, it's been positive. Next, she says, I asked her for leadership. What does leadership look like to you? And she said that for her, it was the managers leading the crew in order for the site to function and work properly. And then I additionally asked her, how does the GM lead the team, in what style? And she said that the GM leads in a way that moderately enforces the rules for the workplace, but allows for the crew to make input and ideas for how the site would function better and easier. And I asked her, do you think leadership or management treats you well, and why? And she says that for the majority of the time, she's felt very satisfied. Most of the time, yes. She does feel like they treat her well, and she feels very nice working there with management. And based on that, I asked her, is there something that could be improved on for management? She says that the leaders do mention wanting feedback, but she said that they're kind of late when it comes for that feedback to come through or for them to consider it or implement it, which can kind of inconvenience the crew. She did mention one time that she reported that part of a cleaning part of the tunnel wasn't getting cleaned through. She took this to management, but it took them around a week and a half to 2 weeks for them to actually address the problem, which in a way was a little bit inconveniencing for her since it was a major thing, part of an equipment that was dirty and needed to be cleaned on. And she wanted to report that before it got even worse. So when it comes to teams, there's different teams in the company, according to her. I asked her what the teams look like to you. And there's different types of teams. There's two in particular that she mentioned, GSS versus managers. She said most of the time there are teams with GSSs and managers since they have the title separation where the tasks for GSS are different compared to managers. For reference, members, GSSs are people with the blue outfit, and managers are ones with the gray outfit. And there's also the site competitions, like mentioned earlier. When the site is making competitions within the crew for signups, they combine a GSS and a manager, and the team who gets the most in the week would both get prized. And sometimes when training is needed, a manager will assign a specific GSS. They'll be assigned to one in particular in order for that training to be done in place. And next for the topic was communication. According to her, communication is done with two ways, depending on how the company interprets the message sent. The first one is verbal. This is immediate communication, such as when the car needs additional preparation, who's switching rotations, and task information, which is done with walkie-talkies, a radio, or in person. In addition, there's also online communication. This comes from like company-wide initiatives such as new messages, new policies that the CEO or further more elder members of management do. And Alicia does claim that this affects her positively, so it becomes for her to become more up to date about the state of the site and become more quicker and more receptive to messaging, which helps her a lot in the long run. And I also asked her, is the communication different for you for GSS as compared to management? And she says that with GSS, it's more flexible, it's more free, since she doesn't feel pressure to be more professional to them. And compared to GSSs with management, the communication is a little bit more professional since she says that she doesn't want to specifically like offend or say something wrong to or miscommunicate something which can be leading to disciplinary action. She's more free to talk with GSSs since there is allowed free communication. But for managers, she says that it's a little bit different just because of the difference in positions too. But for most of the time, yes, she feels that she can communicate comfortably with people. But she did say when people are tense or in some work drama, it doesn't become safe because she doesn't want to align into a different side or negatively affect her position. And that leads into organizational politics. So basically, according to AIHR, organizational politics refer to agenda of each employee within a company in order to acquire or increase power and resources to gain something they want. So, based on Alicia's perspective, she's seen multiple situations where higher management is aligning to organizational politics or office politics. She has observed that gossip has been spread throughout the crew during her time there, with different members in and out. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's a rumor against a coworker in order to reduce their credibility. Some coworkers become very friendly to different managers in order for them to be favored in their favor or to avoid consequences for that person, even though their performance could be a little bit decreasing compared to other people, but the punishment is less severe. Another one is that some coworkers make cliques, which separate employees and create at times a hostile environment when things don't go well. So she said that there has been like different groups that are into this and into that, which means that when they get into a feud, sometimes it feels really hard for her to actually try to not lean into a side. And in the most part, they have affected her negatively since she doesn't want to lead into different sides of that situation. And sometimes it does give her stress because she also worries that it could affect her position if she get caught in someone else's strategy or possibly get punished for it too. And this also leads to stress. She says that sometimes when she feels stress, she sometimes loses her focus on working. And she did tell me that on one occasion, due to stress, high volume, and high temperature, she ended up having like a very blurry vision, which warranted her to go to the hospital. The manager was called 911, and an ambulance came for her. Luckily, nothing serious happened, and she was okay from this whole situation. But she said that it could have been prevented. And factors that she mentioned for that situation and others in general were rush hour, tunnel accidents, or claims can stress out the crew a lot, and weather itself too, such as high temperatures or really, really sunny days. For most of the time, for how management handles it, it can vary. Sometimes rotation times are reduced. Normally, it's an hour, according to her, but sometimes it's reduced to 30 or 15 minutes to avoid dehydration and exhaustion. And the supplies for appropriate for the season are also given, such as in the winter, appropriate clothing, such as jackets and coats. And in the summer, more fans, ice, and dehydrating, for example, hydrating powders, sometimes to hydrate someone, is offered for the crew too, to help avoid that stress. Also, they also let management know to the GSS that if they need rest, to take it, and appropriate break times are also done. And leading into that burnout for her, it says that it's a lack of motivation to keep up with tasks, or her interest in them goes down. And she claims, what could the organization do about it? I asked her that. She says that there hasn't been any efforts by the organization to combat or address burnout. But she does say it's something that should be looked into further in order to avoid that. Since she did mention that she feels that some of her coworkers had been like that, but haven't brought it out to management yet. So, going to organizational development, I asked her, how does your organization communicate team expectations, changes, or feedback? There's different ways when it comes to safety. There are safety team meetings, which explain, for example, ladder safety, slips and falls, chemical safety, to make sure that the team is perfect on safety and don't get hurt. Another way that development is also done is by surveys, to making sure that the team is all good, making sure that how they can communicate better for the team. And another one is one-on-ones with the general manager and each employee to make sure their concerns are being heard, and for their employee to be more developed and to be on the same page as the rest of the crew. And she says that there's different kinds of resources. During hiring specifically, she mentioned that managers get with new employees to develop new skills. And this plays out in courses, meetings, and practice. And she also said for new procedures, there's more additional meetings, so making sure that the team and the managers are in the same boat as everybody else. Now, this was part of her explanation of work. Now, going into the recommendations for her personally, speaking with Alicia opened an excellent space where I learned of her experience working at Mr. And I made 2 recommendations that I would suggest to her. I'm sorry. Number 1 is coping strategies to work stress. One of the strategies to work on that I would recommend her is developing healthy habits. According to the APA, establishing good habits for your health makes stress levels go down, such as eating, avoiding alcohol and fatty eating, and getting enough sleep. Working with nice healthy habits does allow for stress levels to go down. And she has been mentioning that she has been lacking sleep due to her tight schedules. And she does say that she was talking to management just a few days ago. So her sleep schedule would be a little bit better. So she could function and she could actually work a little bit better, more to her satisfaction and to avoid stress. And then the second recommendation that made her were strategies when confronting organizational politics. Organizational politics can be a very tricky thing. You don't want to make sides or having employees kind of against you. So these are good methods that were made. One of them is staying calm, and it says this is the best strategy to help while losing composure or showing clear frustration can worsen the situation. Another one is engaging in open communication. Sharing respectful and honest communication with the individual or individuals can help address any misunderstandings or any messages that were not communicated well. And the third thing focusing on the career goals. Most of the time, organizational politics is not permanent, and these employees that do come up with these strategies often or not don't stay too much into the company itself. Focusing on your own career and goals, you can avoid entering in harmful behaviors or affecting the position that you have yourself. To conclude, this experience working with Alicia, telling her story was really surprising. It was nice to see her view of her work in a different way than mine. Like I mentioned, she works in the morning, and due to college at WSU, I work in the afternoon. So we don't meet each other, which was very curious, and making this project was very interesting. And I really wanted to interview her because we have such different schedules. And obviously, her experience and mine are completely different, not just because of the times we work, but also the people that we work with. So it was really something surprising to see her different vision from mine for me working at Mister. And another one was the explanation of work attitudes that she sees in the crew, her positive attitude towards work despite the challenges she has faced. And that's what one of the things I really admire her about her work is that even though when things get hard, she is, as other coworkers have mentioned, she is a coworker that tries to see positive through things that can be hard, especially when facing negative things, negative coworkers, and sometimes bad days with very interesting customers, with customers that are a little bit more difficult to be with. What I personally learned from this experience, there were different things. Just because you have the same thing doesn't mean that everyone is gonna live the exact same thing that you did. And this really showed an example. I really wish that in the future there could be like a project compared to my work and hers, because I haven't showed any of my experience, but it is very vastly different to what mine is. And it's nice to know her view, her different view of the same story. And I think it's a really nice topic to cover. Thank you to Alicia for contributing to this project. I thank her so much for offering her time and her detail into this project. I thank her so much. And thank you guys for watching. It is 27 minutes. It is a little bit longer than usual, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much and have an excellent night. Toodles. Thank you.